Hey Internet, it's David. I've got a special Bible here with me to review with you for today's video. Behold, I stumbled upon a Thomas Nelson New King James Preaching Bible that I'm going to show you and tell you all about today. And so I'm super excited to do this video with you, and thank you so much for Nelson Bibles for providing the review copy for this video. And so anyway, I had really liked the Bible, and again, for the price point, Thomas Nelson has been putting out some really cool stuff. This is not one of their premier Bibles, and so I'll kind of compare some of the differences and tell you about it, but still, for not being one of their premier edition Bibles, this is still an amazing Bible and is going to be a welcome addition in the rotation in the pulpit with me. I'm super excited about it. So anyway, we're just going to get right into it. But first, I'm going to mention up front, if you enjoy the work and the ministry of this channel, and it would bring you joy to support me and my family, you can support us over on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. And if you like the music playing underneath this video or any of my videos, then it's all available for download at forloveoftheword.bandcamp.com, and those links will be in the description. Now, getting into the Bible review. Whoever did the colors for this one and picked out the colors for the ribbon and even this brown is my hero. This is probably one of the most pleasing to me, my opinion, to look at color schemes on a Bible that I have seen in a long time. And the brown on it is so unique. I'm actually going to show you a brown from Alan, a tan from Skylar, and an antique marble brown with this in the mix to show you that it's just got its own unique shade of brown. And so that's kind of the color difference of the brown. I really like it. Very tasteful brown. I like all those colors. And it's just cool to have variations of brown and tan. To me, those are kind of my favorite ones. But even the insides, the color scheme they used on the typeface that we'll get into here in a sec is just beautiful. But I want to set this down and just look at the cover of this thing, man. It's amazing. I do wish it had a bigger yap like the Premier editions do, but it will do. And when you open the cover up, you see that it's edge-lined. I don't know the material that they're using for the liner. It's a little bit stiffer than what's on their Premier collection, but it's still bendy and stuff. Not as flexible, but it flexes. But the cover is super soft, so when you open it in your hand, you can feel the softness of the cover kind of underneath where the calfskin's wrinkling up, because this is the brown calfskin edition I forgot to mention at the beginning. But anyway, again, it is edge line, it's perimeter stitch, so it's a good solid sewn binding, and so I don't foresee too many issues with the longevity of this thing. And now let's open this up and see what's inside. And again, a shout out to whoever picked these ribbon colors out with this shade of brown is just magnificent. You should be given a promotion. Actually, you should be running the company and making all the important decisions. I really love the artistic look of this color scheme. But now let's open this up. There's really not much to talk about once you open it up. It's got the presentation page at the beginning, table of contents, the preface to the translation, and then it gets right into the Old Testament and Genesis. And so here we are in Genesis chapter 1. Let's see if this thing will lay flat in Genesis 1. Wow! I was honestly not really expecting it to lay flat in Genesis 1 for how thick it is. But it's doing it. Look at that, Internet. Now I want to go to the end of Revelation. So in this one, you don't have too many extras at the end. Actually, I think you don't even have maps at the end of this one, because I'm getting to Revelation and look how thin it is. Let me see, Revelation 22. All right, so get to Revelation 22. There's 2 scriptures on it with the heading, I am coming quickly. And it lays flat right there too. So that's a beautiful thing that it lays flat. After Revelation, you don't have a concordance in this one. You don't have maps. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sheets of notebook paper. And there's a small little thing regarding the typeface, your cardstock, and then your liner and cover on the other side. So this thing, as far as just added things in the front and the back, are not there, but again, this is a preaching Bible. This is not a study Bible. They do have footnotes and cross-references, and they're all mixed up in the bottom. So let me open it up, and I will show you. So there we go. So you see 2-column format, and then you have all of the footnotes and all of the cross-references, again, mixed together in the bottom. I really, really like this color scheme. Like with the tan, these color ribbons, and then just, hey babe, what color are these verse numbers and headings? Turquoisey? I don't know, she didn't hear me. Turquoisey colors, maybe? But anyway, it's just very easy. I've actually been using this for a week, spending some time in on the couch. I haven't taught in it yet, but I was in a phone conversation where I was kind of going through scripture with an individual a couple days ago, and so I needed the New King James for that particular moment, so I pulled this one off the shelf and was able to go verse by verse with this nice 11.5 comfort print font size. It's really easy to read, really nice. I don't need my reading glasses like I do for the Pid Minion or some of these other smaller fonts. Anyway, I really like the page layout. In a preaching Bible, I do use the footnotes sometimes. Cross-references I could take or leave because I write my own cross-references, especially in my preaching Bibles. I love this typeface, and again, verse by verse. To me, that's what makes a preaching Bible. I want to get to a place, let's see, where we have the columns full width, because I want to see what the margins look like. So the gutter looks great. Even in the back, when it's laying flat, the gutter looks fine. There's nothing distracting about the gutter. There's good spacing there. There's room for writing cross-references on the side in these margins, but not too much room. This is probably the least amount of room in a preaching Bible that I'm going to have for writing, which is a little bit of a bummer. And so just to be kind of transparent, my improvements for this one, if they should so desire, is maybe a little bit wider margin on this one for my own notes, my own cross-referencing, and more notebook paper. 8 pages of notebook paper in a preaching Bible really isn't a lot to write home about. Alan puts somewhere in the 30s, like right under 40, like 36 or 38 pages of notebook paper in theirs, and I have not exhausted all of the notebook paper in my Allen, which this one with the larger lines and only 8 pages, I know I'm going to exhaust the notebook paper very quickly. And I do use notebook paper in the back of Bible, so it's a valuable thing. I'm glad they put it in there. I love the aesthetics. I love the typeface. I think just a wider margin and more notebook paper would be super beneficial. And then just like a nitpicky thing, the ribbons are not double-faced satin. They're single-faced satin, so you have one side that's smooth and another side that's rough. So it makes them curl a little bit funny. But now we're just getting like real picky. But anyway, I still like the color of the ribbons. I have no plans to change them out. I'm happy with them. And then before I compare it with just 2 other editions that I have here, I want to take some pens and highlighters and highlight something and just look at the ghosting. So I'm going to go to Isaiah 66, and I am going to take my blue. People ask me like what I use to write in my Bibles. I use Sharpie for yellows. I'm still use Bics for colors, except the Sharpie purple is really nice. And then Pigma Micron 005s. And so that's what we're going to be looking at with the ghosting on all of these. This is what I use in all my preaching Bibles, and they all use the same key, which I'm not going to explain now. There's a separate video on how I mark my Bible from a few years ago. It's easy to find in the Restoring Delight and the Word playlist that you can find how I mark the Bible, but I'm just going to mark it. These colors tend to pull up, and so when I mark it, you'll see my finger kind of swipe, and how I get rid of that pull on the side. But I'm going to mark it and see how it does, see how we like it. But just before I do, while I have it here, I want to zoom in on the ghosting without marking. It's really not bad. It looks like it's line matched, which is really, really nice, especially in a preaching Bible. Everything that you can throw into a preacher's Bible to help make the reading experience more efficient is primo. And I really feel like they did that in this typeface. I really like the paper opacity. It looks really great. So now let's see what it looks like to mark in it. So here I'm just going to do verse 1 and 2, and then I'm going to write a cross-reference in here. So that says, "The Lord, heaven's my throne, the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that you will build me? Where's the place of my rest? For all those things my hand has made, and all those things exist, says the Lord." But on this one I will look, on him who is poor and of contrite spirit, and who trembles at my word. Oh my goodness, I love that. And so I'm just going to write in the cross-reference here, Matthew 5:3, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." And we'll turn this over and see how it looks. And so you can see the ghosting on the other side there, and see if a colored highlighter makes you happy. All right, cool stuff. So I want to point out, again, just a few differences. This is the King James Premier collection. It's not a preaching Bible to me. You can preach from it. I have a friend who's a preacher that just picked this up for himself and preaches from it, but it's paragraph format. That's the major difference on the typeface, even though it's 11-point font instead of 11 and a half. 11-point font, 11 and a half. Paragraph format, verse by verse. So I'll just show you a quick shot of the typeface of each here. And then on the Premier they have that dark red instead of the turquoise. Honestly, I kind of like the turquoise. I'm loving the typeface on the Preacher's Bible. The Premier is really nice too. The other thing you'll notice while the pages are open is because the Premier has a little bit longer yap, that's the edges of the Bible, how much edge of the cover goes over the actual text block. And so while it's laying open, you can see the Premier has a larger yap, and so it has that gold ring, which is just a fancy little thing. And they use the same ribbons, just a single face satin, but the liner is a little bit different quality. The outside of the covers, they both seem pretty soft, even though the Preaching Bible's calfskin and this one is advertised as goatskin. They're both still very nice, both edge lines. But I point that out to say, because of the edge line, the binding, the comfort print typeface, and the paper type, even though it's not in the Premier collection, this is still a really, really nice Bible. So now that I pointed out some of the differences, I just want to show you the size comparison. So I'm going to put the Premier reference on the bottom and the Preaching Bible on top. Text block has got a similar size footprint, even though it's got a smaller yap, but it is a little bit thicker for the nicer paper and the bigger font, the verse by verse. So there's less words on the pages of the Preaching Bible to just make things a little bit more clear, which honestly I like. I'm only going to compare it to one other one because I have friends who currently use the wide margin for their teaching Bible, but the font is small or it's filled up and they're looking for something else. I'm going to compare it size-wise with the wide margin to give you kind of a feel, to know what you're getting into. It's still just, as far as the weight, still about the same, but because it doesn't have those big wide margins like the Cambridge does, it still feels like a normal Bible size and a little bit more manageable than the wide margin. And so here's the size difference on those. Alright, so that's the review on the Thomas Nelson Bible's New King James Preaching Bible. There are passages I prefer to use the New King James for, just because the majesty of the language is just a whole different thing. For instance, put the New American Standard up against the King James or the New King James in Psalm 110. That's one of the passages. Like, I'll never preach out of Psalm 110 using the New American Standard. Sorry. The Psalm 110 in the New King James is just one of those like gorgeous spots where the wording is just amazing to me, and I love the phraseology of Psalm 110 in the New King James and in the King James. And so anyway, that's what I'll be using it for, and there are some other spots where I prefer the New King James. So anyway, great Bible. I'm excited to use it. Again, the functional things as a preacher, I'd like to see a little bit wider margins on these. I'd like to see more notebook paper, and if I can even nitpick the notebook paper, like smaller lines similar to what you see in the back of an Allen, to me that's perfect. I'm able to utilize the whole face of the page a little bit better than I am with the big lines of the notebook paper in the back of this one. So more of it, and I personally like the double column lined notebook paper with the small lines in it. It's just my personal preference. So a little bit more thought of the notebook paper. I'm glad it was a thought though, that's huge. But a little bit more notebook paper in the back, a little bit wider margins, not to the point where it's a wide margin, but just something to be able to write flat and not have to diagonal like my writing all the time for the cross references, or if I just want to jot like a little bitty note in there on the side. So those are the functional upgrades, just the pure aesthetic stuff, if it matters or not, but I would use a double face satin ribbon and a little bit larger yap on the side. One for looks, two for if it's in a suitcase or a backpack or something, or even just being toted around in the box. It keeps the pages a little bit more protected, in my opinion. But overall, like, I give this so many stars. Again, the person who picked the color schemes out for this one, you're my hero. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching another Bible review. Comment if you have any questions or whatever. But again, if you'd like to support the work and the ministry of this channel and my family, you can support us over on Patreon for as little as $2 a month and get a little bit more content over there. And also you can purchase the music playing underneath this video or any of my videos at forloveoftheword.bandcamp.com, and all those links will be in the description as well. Y'all have a great day. Bye.